welcome back to the School of Sensuality podcast. Today I am joined by my beautiful friend Saskia, who is from Germany and is a menstrual health coach. And I'm really excited to introduce you and to bring this topic, on my channel, all around the School of Sensuality. We are here to talk about the taboo subjects, which doesn't get enough airtime on the internet. So we're going to do a deep dive into periods and all the yummy things that's going to allow you to feel more comfortable in your body relating to your periods. Yay! So I am kind of curious what made you turn towards wanting to study and wanting to learn more about our periods and our menstrual cycle?
So the thing was, I was already on the way of being like an holistic health coach. I was studying at uni, and then I had a miscarriage that led me into having an endometriosis actually. And so the endometriosis, what was a shocking thing about that was the treatment that was offered to me. I was like, what the fuck is going on actually? And by the way, hi guys, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I'm just jumping straight in. And so the only option that was offered to me was like, well, you could take the pill to control the symptoms. And I'm like, yeah, but it's coming from a miscarriage, means I want to conceive at one point and be a mom. So like the pill is not really an option. Well, you're a white woman living in Asia, you could adopt. I'm like, what? What? And I was like, okay, this is not okay. I need to find my own way. And so nobody offered me a solution. And I'm absolutely a fan of taking your destiny into your own hands. And then I turned my path of becoming a holistic health coach into the direction of becoming a feminine holistic health coach, and found there in my studies then the ways to actually heal that and specialize in that.
Wow. Yes. And I all love, we've all got a story, we've all got a journey, and that's how unfortunately, potentially fortunately, this is what led you into this space. Just for those obviously watching out there, what is endometriosis? Potentially may or may not know. What is endometriosis?
So endometriosis per se, it starts with an inflammation and uncontrolled growth of the uterine lining. So the uterine lining is, we have the uterus, right? And then inside the uterus we have that skin, and that skin is also what causes our period. Every month that skin is shedding, and that's our period. And so endometriosis is an inflammation of this lining, the uterine lining, and the endometrial lining, and then an uncontrolled growth into the rest of the body. Now studies find that it's actually not a reproductive disease. It's something that most commonly starts in the reproductive area, but actually endometriosis can also be an uncontrolled growth of tissue around your lungs, around your stomach, etc., which is really a problem, because nowadays it's just like, okay, either take the pill or you get an hysterectomy, which means the removal of the womb. And then suddenly women still have endometriosis, but at other areas and different organs of the body. And it was like, what should we do? Yeah.
Wow. And you said, with your journey and with the miscarriage, that's what led you to endometriosis. But what other, because I know a lot of females out there are struggling with pain during their periods, or pain in their wombs, pain in their stomach area, and going to the doctors and going to the GP, and it's coming back to a lot of endometriosis. Apart from just miscarriages as well, what are other reasons why endometriosis starts to form within a woman's body?
So basically endometriosis overall is also like a collection of symptoms. So we put many symptomatics like very excessive bleeding, extreme bloating, extreme pain, we put them into the category of endometriosis. So it's something important to notice, that not every woman who is diagnosed with endometriosis necessarily has this uncontrolled growth, right? It could just be on the inflammation level, or there couldn't be any inflammation. We don't have an idea what's going on, but these symptoms kind of match with women who have that, so you also have that label and name. The same with PCOS as well, like polycystic ovary syndrome. It's a syndrome, it's not a disease. It's like basically a name we put onto a category, a group of symptoms we have no explanation for. But usually what causes endometriosis beyond the level of inflammation of your endometrial and uterine lining is most commonly stress. So many people now say, no, it's an imbalance in estrogen or progesterone and your androgens and testosterone. But usually all these fluctuations in your hormones also are caused by stress. So the deep root cause is a nervous system misalignment or dysregulation. That means we're constantly stressed. And even when we think we're relaxed, we're just like, that is like, no, we're not relaxed. And once we don't have the ability to deeply relax, that chronic stress, even very subtle stress in our system, Yes, horrible. It's so
Yeah.
draining. That then causes the body not to do its job, which is just self-healing. Like the body is hardwired to heal and to survive. We are survivors. This body is a piece of nature. She just wants to grow, evolve, and survive. And so once we are too stressed, we block that automatic function. And then for some women, they get endometriosis, others get PCOS, others get infertility, others just get migraines, and others just get back pain. And it depends on the individual woman what symptomatic she's showing.
Wow, I find it so fascinating and interesting as well, you know, being the endometriosis, and I believe being so in the holistic space as well. Anything that we weren't born with, our body has created this. We've created it. Generally, what happens, we create things through stress, just like you said. And then I think it's quite unfortunate that the doctors, or I'm not shaming doctors or GPs, we're just giving pills or just giving like, okay, you're going to have to learn to live with this and this is just it. But for both of us being in this holistic space, there are so many other ways that you can naturally heal your body, just like yourself. What would you say is some, for those watching at home and potentially they do have endometriosis or they know that their friend or partner does, what would you suggest to those who are navigating endometriosis? How can they help themselves to heal naturally during this process?
I think the biggest mindset shift that is needed here to come to a path of self-healing is actually to stop looking at the disease and start looking at yourself as an individual. So two women can do the very same thing, and one develops endometriosis, the other one develops back pain from that. That isn't genetic and just an habitual predisposition. So what you are trained in your family, in your upbringing, how to express, that creates the weak point in your body, and there then the disease comes up. So I think really the path to self-healing is not looking at the endometriosis as something isolated that happens to me, but first stepping away from that and like, what's actually going on in my life? How am I positioned in my life? Am I positioned in a beneficial or in a toxic situation in my life? Is my life based on expectations and obligations? Or do I have obligations to nurture and responsibilities to nurture the basis and foundation of playfulness and joy, actually, right? And so, because we are multidimensional beings. We're not just like working robots and machines, but we think we are, but we're not. And it's like, even when we work hard, we don't feel fully rewarded. Partially, it's important to live out your purpose, to work hard, of course, but we're here to give something back as well. But overall, it's like, where is my position, and am I genuinely happy? And where am I not happy? And where am I doing things that are not good for me, right? And that's a subtle thing. Like, many think they do something good for themselves by getting up at 5 a.m., running to the gym, just having green juices and pumping a lot of supplements into the system. But I'm like, is this really coming from a place of I do myself good? Or is it coming from a place of I'm not good enough if I'm not grinding and hustling hard enough, right? So that's a big, big thing, especially for the wellness girlies out there. Like, and so that's a big thing. And like, sit and be really honest. Like, am I doing this because I love myself and I care and nurture for myself, or to fill a gap and fill a lack? And this will show you where's the biggest stressor in your life. I call these points stress leaks in the work with my women. Like, we discover where are your stress leaks. And also in life, you have maybe a stressful job, but it's deeply rewarding for you. Do you allow yourself to close that stress when you leave the job? Or do you carry that stress leak into the rest of your life all day long? Or when you love a high intensity class or a cardio class, amazing, go for it. But after, do you take a moment to like, okay, and this is now done. My heart rate doesn't need to be up all the time. I don't need to rush and hurry. Now I close this chapter and I move on in a more gentle, calm, nurtured pace through my day. And so this is what I would recommend, to start healing yourself, actually. Close the stress leaks in your life and find activities where mindfulness is an amazing tool for that. Find activities to calm down really intentionally anytime you feel like you went out of calmness and out of stability.
Yeah, thank you. And all the stress, I actually ran a workshop yesterday around how stress affects our orgasms, how stress affects our pleasure. And just to expand a little bit more on that with the listeners, it's stress can, like you touched on it as well. It's like if you're in a toxic relationship and you're always arguing in your relationship, or like you said, if you're running from A to B, picking the kids up, doing all the activities of life, having no time. And that's exactly why I created the School of Sensuality, especially my Patreon, which is what I teach all inside the Patreon, simple exercises that's supporting women to help them slow down. And I know for myself in my younger years, I was like a little whippet, you know, doing all the things. I was having so much fun, but I wasn't really giving that time to my body, and my stress was rising, the anxiety was rising. I didn't have endometriosis, but I did go through such a stage of my life with having pain in my stomach, and this was going through from thinking that I was wanting to be someone else or showing up in a way, and my internal system just closed down. This is like, no, Katie, we're not happening with this. And that can also relate over into the endometriosis, just like what you said, you know, if we're not in alignment with ourselves. And I guess for those listening, if you're thinking, okay, is this the life that I'm living, is this in alignment? Simply like you Saskia voiced, is doing mindfulness practices such as a 5-minute breath work, a 10-minute meditation, sitting in the garden, watching the trees, or going for a beach walk. Something that's really, really soft and is giving you time without the phone, without the mind chatter, and just a moment that you can really be present in your own body. And then from this, what we do is we start listening to our body. Okay, I'm feeling this because of this. I'm feeling this because of that. Instead of, you know, being into our minds of this is just what it is, this is what I need to do, sometimes all we need to do is just simply slow down, listen to our body, which is what the School of Sensuality is all about. I'm all about using pleasure, mindfulness tools, sensual practices to really start listening to your body, so you can come into a space where you don't have the stress, where you're not sitting with the endometriosis, where you're not sitting with pain in relationships, and you're just living so much more freely in your body. And like that's the goal at the end of the day. That is such the goal. As we're on I'm really loving this topic because I think it's such an important, underrated a holistic way of health and a holistic way of approaching. And something I'm actually going to add in here on this subject, I used to get really bad period cramps, and I do a lot of soothing for myself and, you know, my own sensual practices to really calm and release all the fascia in my womb space, and just to release. And then I actually sat a plant medicine Cambo, and for those that don't know, Cambo is a plant medicine. It's the toad, and it is put onto your skin. I actually still have the marks on my skin here. I'll zoom in there. And I had my skin was burnt, and I was put toad medicine onto my arm. And you're basically giving a bucket. I know I'm going to make this sound really, really yummy now, guys, but you're basically given a bucket, and I cried and I cried, which was the release. But intentionally, what you do is you basically throw up, you purge, and you throw up whatever is kind of stored within you. And I really, really believe that Camber would be so amazing for endometriosis as well, because we're clearing out any toxins within our body. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, I've had the toad put on my arm, I'm sitting there with the bucket, and I've just thrown up. And obviously after the time, coming back into more relaxation, but since, my period pains have been non-existent. And I've just really just cleansed so much. Plus I do a lot of work each month around connecting with my own period, connecting with my own body, which is what I'd love to kind of come into now. I know I have a lot of listeners out there who are really new into the space of learning about their period, to understanding what that is. As a menstrual coach, what would you say to someone who's obviously aware that they have their period, but it's just it's just a thing? You know, oh yeah, it's that time, it's my time of the month again, it's just a thing, but not really taking too much, doesn't have too much understanding or awareness around their period. What would you suggest to the ladies watching on how they can support themselves and love their period as they move forward?
I feel like the first step here is to allow yourself be supported by your periods, which sounds so contradictory, right? Because usually periods are just this annoying thing. I have to take a painkiller and just move through it, and it's really, right? And we don't even want to talk about it and stuff like that. So the first step to really support your period is to allow yourself supported by it. And that starts by harnessing harvesting the powers of the period and the ovulation phase. So overall, we have 4 phases we go through every single month. We have the follicular phase, we have the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, and the menstrual phase. Short means we have the phase preparing for ovulation. That's when you're fertile in the ovulation. Then you have your fertility phase, and then you have the phase preparing for the menstruation, and then you have your menstruation. And so these 4 phases have strong different characters that we can make so much great use of that, and especially the ovulation and the menstrual phase. And so the ovulation phase, so the first step would be track your cycle. Figure out when is your period coming, and approximately halfway in the cycle, around that time, is when we have our ovulation, when we're fertile. And that is your maximum superpower moment. You are incredibly delicious, you look amazing, you visibly look more symmetrical. I use the time to shoot all my content, for example. I use the time to get what I want. Back then when I still worked with people, that was the time to do negotiations and stuff, ask for a raise, things like this. And so that's a time to just get what you want, do what you want, and really shine bright. That's a time to schedule a party, go really out and live your best life, basically. What's important here is, and not get attached to that. Because most women have that once a month. We feel epic, and then we're super sad if we don't feel like this, and we want to crave that high that we're riding. But it's natural that it's going down. And then, so you can use that power for yourself a lot. Also, like, sex usually is much better in that time because we're really juicy and alive and playful and radiant, and like we're much more open to experience new things, and we're much more connected to our sensuality. We're much more in the body in that time. And then we can use the menstrual phase for ourselves, because the menstrual phase is a phase of deep relaxation. Like, we are so snappy these 2 days before because our nervous system wants to protect us to stay in a place of restoration and relaxation, because this is what the body is hardwired to do while you bleed. And so you are much more snappy if something else is coming onto your plate. You have way less capacity in that time because your body is like, no, we're not taking anything on. We don't want to have social engagement and interactions whatsoever. We want to be at home and chill and rest and restore, because we need that. It's like a monthly retreat your body's actually offering to yourself. And that's why we're snappy. We're highly defensive of our rest and restoration. And in that way, you can be supported by your period, and you can support your period. So I know when is my period coming, and already the week before I get a lot of stuff done, so there I have way less things to do. If I can, I don't schedule anything in that time. If I have to, I'm really highly prioritizing what is really important at the time, what can I push before or after, and just go home, rest, be with yourself, journal with yourself. If you have to work at an office or wherever, I do as many things as I can just on paper instead of on a computer. And there's apps nowadays. You can write out your emails per hand. There's an app, you can scan it, you can copy paste the text, and you can throw it into the computer. And all these things help me to minimize the impact that I have on my system, to come more into calmness and softness and slowness. And if we allow ourselves to do that, you become the most powerful, energetic woman on this planet Earth. It's insane, because we have 2 options. We go into the period and we deny the physical, the natural function of rest and restoration. When we come out, we're like, wow, I need a holiday from that period. That was so tough, right? You feel like warriors who survived. Or it's like, wow, I come from a spa of 4 or 5 days. Oh my gosh, I'm just so refreshed and recharged, really.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. It was actually really juicy and yummy. And I did like, as you said, we can have moments like in ovulation when we are so happy and so excited and doing all these external social things. And then maybe in the luteal phase, that is when we are a lot more calmer and a lot more softer. And just really noticing, when you track your period with my clients, I generally do this over a 3-month minimum period, because then you're going to see the patterns. Yes, you start tracking for a month, but you're going to see the patterns of how you're feeling around your ovulation, how you're feeling when you're getting your cycle, and using those moments. Like, I remember I used to use them in the gym. So like, as a ex-professional CrossFit athlete, when it was my luteal phase, I was like, I do not want to be in the gym lifting 100 kilos and putting all this weight over my head and doing all these handstands when I just really don't feel like it. And at the start, because I was an athlete, I thought that, you know, you just had to show up. It's what you do. You just show up. And then when I started actually working with my own body and not just with the workout that was in front of me, my training, my performance really boosted because I was listening to my body. And yes, there was that 1 week of the month in my luteal phase that I was a little bit more softer and I would just be doing more stretches. But because I was listening to my body and what it needed in that moment, on other times, like, I think it was when I actually had my period, then I was lifting like so much more weight because the energy that I had was really carrying me forward. And people used to be like, Katie, you're lifting all this weight and you've got your period. I'm like, yeah, because the energy that I've got during this time, of course, the first day when I get my period, I honestly think that women need a day off when they get their period.
100%.
Like, I was literally thinking that today. I was just like, when women get their period, men don't have to deal with this, you know, and I really believe that women need a day off. Anyway, obviously the first day of my period, that is just when I'm really internal and just being by myself. But then afterwards, my energy, my creation, my like vibe and zest for life is so powerful. And I feel like, you know, what you said before, you know, our period is kind of just there. It's one thing that comes. We just need to deal with it and to navigate it. But if you can really use it to your advantage, like I am so excited for my period to come because I know it's a time when I'm so vibey, so zesty for life and really love this part of my body because I have learned over time to build such a relationship with my body. And you might be listening and watching this and think, Katie, what are you on about? Like you cycle, you know, you just period comes, you just use your tampon, you get on with life. No, there's so much more that you can really learn about how to use your cycle throughout the month. And I'm going to pop Saskia's links and everything below. So if you are really a bit curious and you're wanting to dive a little bit more deeper into this, then you'll be able to find out so much more. And I find it so interesting as well, leading like, you know, one of my paths in the future is motherhood for both of us, really. And knowing that how your cycle works, when you can be fertile, when you are feeling your best, when you can procreate, this comes from listening to your body and to your cycle, where it's not just for life and creating babies as well. It's, you know, like you said, for using your energies when you're in the gym, using your energies at work as well. It's honestly, it's so powerful. But I feel like potentially there might be listeners out there and it's like, but Katie, like I hate my period, or like it's just one of those things, we just put the tampon in and we kind of ignore it. I feel that if we are ignoring our period or not really taking conscious of it, we are numbing ourselves and the disconnection that we have with our own body and our relationship to ourselves, because we are basically, in a way, if we're not taking it or acknowledging it, we're just kind of blocking it out. And that will affect our nervous system. It will affect how we show up in life, in a way of being so disconnected from something that's part of you. You know, that's something that's part of our system, of our own body. And like the space of what's possible, what comes through when you do start tracking your cycle. Because like with my clients, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I understand now why I'm so happy at this week and then why I'm shouting at my boyfriend at this week. And I'm like, see, now it just makes sense to you. If we were getting to a space of like you said before, like, oh, I'm down in the dumps, it's not always like this. We maybe spend 2 or 3 days like that, and then afterwards, like, we can go into the happiness, into the joy. And it's a bit like, you know, if you are throughout the weeks of your cycle, the more that you know about yourself, you can also use this when you come into sex and into the bedroom as well. Because if you're in your luteal phase and you just want like soft massage and gentle touch, the more that you know about your body with this, you can communicate this then to your partner. Whereas sometimes, you know, like in your follicular phase, you might be like, oh my God, I just want my hair pulled and I really want to be raunchy. Yeah, and like, the more that you know this, you'll be able to communicate that kind of this type to your partner, which I think sex and periods, I do have another video on sex and periods, so I'm going to link that above. let's say women do have some period cramps and period pains. I have used Cambo, and I have my own somatic practices that I use. What are some exercises or movements that women can try and implement during the times when they've got the menstrual pain and cramps?
I love the question, and I love what you just shared. Like, we'll dive into that and then come to your question. And so what I love that you just shared is, like, when you track your cycle, you don't take shit so personal no more. Like, that's what I really love about that. Suddenly it's not me who is like bitchy. No, I'm just before my period. It's my body giving me signals to slow back. So that's really something I highly can recommend to start tracking that. And then also, I think it takes a lot of shame away in the bedroom, right? Like, I feel really edgy, or like today I don't feel like it, or I don't know how I feel like it. And before, it's like there's like this layer of shame that we're not performing our most playful, edgy self. It's just 3 days ago. Like 3 days ago, you wanted everything, and now you're like, I'm cranky, I don't know what I want. And then it's like, when you track the cycle, like, of course my hormones changed. I have different needs. My body has different needs. So that really helps us to be like just more straight and clear with it, and much more free, I feel, and empowered with it. And what helps a lot against, so period cramps are causing, like, we have period cramps to help our body open the cervix. Right? And so the cervix opens up to 2 centimeters to allow the blood flow to come down. And what helps a lot with that is sex. Amazing. Like sex, or going with your own hands, or using a wand. All these things really help to relax and open the cervix. So any movement that allows you to relax your hips and relax your cervix is amazing to prevent period cramps or immediate resolution for period cramps. If you don't have access to that because you're sitting in the office or wherever happens, right? Or if you just have stuff to do, then what is a really good movement is just sitting and start circling the hips either, or like tilting the hips forth and back. That is a really good movement to release it, or come into circular motions, and especially opening the psoas. So finding stretches that allow you to open the front of the hips and of the body help to blood flow to become more smooth, and for the blood to release in a much more gentle way.
Beautiful. So there we go. You can try those. If you have your period now, pause this video. You can go and try them. Or, like you said, if you are sitting at your desk in work, just doing those small little circles, and just knowing, just like, you're doing this for yourself. You're doing this for your own body. It's like time to drop away the shame or the judgment of like what you're being perceived by other people. This is your body. Like I'm so shame-free, judgmental-free around every taboo subject here at the School of Sensuality on all of my channels, because I want you girls to feel comfortable in your bodies, in your skin, love your life, love your periods. That's what we are all about. So we've covered quite a lot here today. It's actually really, really juicy. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yay! If you guys have any questions, or you want some more like, okay, Katie, I didn't quite understand this bit, just pop them in the comments below and we will get back to you. I'm going to pop all of Saskia's links there as well. So if you are wanting to tap into more about your menstrual cycle, how you can potentially use this in your life, how you can understand tracking it, and how you can understand how you can have better sex during it, Saskia is here for you. And that is it from us today. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.